everybody out there in Bourbon Real Talk land. Randy Sullivan coming to you from an on-site location at Timeless Luxury Watches in the lovely Shops of Legacy West. This has to be one of the most beautiful watch stores I've ever seen in my entire life, and we are here with the owner, Dan. Introduce yourself.
I'm Dan Broadfoot. I own this beautiful store, Timeless Luxury Watches here in Legacy West. Right across the street from Del Frisco's Grill.
Yep.
If you guys come into Legacy West, as soon as you come in, you'll see us right here on the left-hand side, right off of Legacy.
And so, as you guys are aware, most of the podcast is about whiskey, and we are both drinking a whiskey, but it is made in cocktail form. And we have some very exciting information to share with the Bourbon Real Talk listeners out there about the store and kind of a relationship that we've started to form through Someone Say Whiskey, the whiskey group that I admin, Bourbon Real Talk, my podcast, and Timeless Luxury Watches. So we're going to get into some of that today. But before we do, I like to get people's backstory. So you have an enormous inventory of super high-end luxury watches. It's probably pretty expensive to open up a store like this. And so tell me about your watch passion that made you want to take this huge risk in life.
Well, I started in the watch world maybe 20 years ago. Worked for a small company in New Jersey in Short Hills, and kind of slowly sold more and more pieces online. I went to college in South Florida, a place called Lynn University, and worked kind of part-time at a watch store my way through college, and moved to Texas, and my wife and I opened a small store, Timeless, and at the time we must have had 40 pieces, 40 watches in inventory.
Wow.
Very small, tiny little store, nothing like this, and slowly built up over 10 years, been 10 years from November. So 10 years ago, November, this month, we opened up the first store, and from 40 pieces now we have roughly 3,000 pieces currently here, and we've got about maybe 20 different watch lines and a huge pre-owned inventory. So it just took a lot of just hard work and really getting to know our customer base here in Texas, and it's a very open place. Texas is very open to people that come in here. It's a melting pot.
Right.
So you've got people from all over the place here, and so we were well accepted here. So we're happy to be here. It's been good.
That's awesome. So what a lot of people don't know about me is that I know almost as much about watches as I do whiskey, because in a previous life, I am almost 43, I was obsessed with watches in the same way. I read every article online. I was subscribed to every watch magazine. I knew about every new complication that was coming out. That was me. I was into that. And I actually ended up collecting vintage watches.
Oh, cool.
Not necessarily because those were my favorite, but because I couldn't afford the ones that I really loved.
Right.
So I forget which brand it was, but they made a fusee chain movement.
Oh, yeah.
And this was
It's like a constant force movement.
Yeah, and there was only like one watchmaker left in the world that had ever worked on any of the original ones, and they had to go find him. And it was it released at the low retail price of like $500,000. And it's like, yes, I would desperately love to have this watch, but it's worth multiple times what my house was worth at the time. So, so I ended up collecting vintage watches. So I have a few vintage watches.
That's cool. I see you've got a vintage watch on.
Yeah, this is a 1953 Waltham.
Oh, nice.
And so it's a manual wind, all that stuff. So it's not a super fancy one, but this one was well taken care of over the years, never had a restoration.
It looks nice.
Yeah.
It's a good look. I've got a vintage watch on today, too. I've got a vintage Zenith on.
Nice, I like that. I love Zenith. First to release a automatic wind
chronograph movement.
And there was a race, and they technically won. And they did that with in conjunction with another watch company. Was it Movado? I think it was Movado. It was something weird. It was something
so
you
they
wouldn't expect.
supplied watches to Movado years ago. But yeah, it was a big race back in the day. The movement is the El Primero movement that they came out with. And this is actually pre-El Primero.
Okay.
We actually did a limited edition with Zenith to do a re-edition of this watch with the El Primero movement. So we did a special 25-piece limited edition with them about 2 years ago.
Yeah, obsessed with Zenith. Always wanted to have one of the El Primeros. Used to be able to find them online pretty reasonably, but I don't know if they are anymore.
They've gone up.
And for the record, Zenith is not the same as the electronics company. There was a whole lawsuit, and they found a way that they could both operate under the same name in the United States. So,
right.
I love watches. Always have. What if somebody said, explain your passion for watches, what would you say?
I mean, I love the mechanics of it. You know, it all makes sense in a very real mathematical, scientific way. It just makes sense. The gears, everything that goes into it, it's so old school. You know, you've got so much technology these days. And if you go through my store here, 98% of the pieces we have here are mechanical.
Correct.
So you've got that nostalgic feel that these watches work in the same way they worked 100 years ago, 150 years ago.
Sure.
And there's something beautiful about that. You know, there's something beautiful about that with cars.
Sure.
With anything that's mechanical that is still going the same way that it used to go. So it's kind of I don't want to say it's a lost art because it's still being created, but it's one of those arts that continues on over the years. So that's really why I'm so passionate about it.
Sure. So I'll tell you this. So he's talking about mechanical watches. So if you don't know, most of the watches that you see out and about, they run off of a quartz movement. And quartz is a material, and it's what you're thinking of, quartz, that if you run a small pulse of electricity through it, it vibrates at a certain frequency. It's like 33,000 something or 32,000, I can't remember, you probably know. And it's basically a computer that counts those vibrations, and that's how they can count out the seconds. But mechanical watches have a very thin spring inside of them. And there's this thing called an escapement, and it just twists back and forth, and there's this little fork deal with the little nodule on it, and one of the forks is kind of bit down, and it just clicks back and forth, right? And that's what counts out the seconds. And I read one time, and this is what gave me a passion for watches. It said, a watch is a tiny machine that's job is to slowly unwind a spring at the exact same pace that the Earth rotates.
All right.
And when you think about that and how important time is, you know, something that we take for granted because everywhere you look, there's something that displays the time, you carry a phone with you. But there was a time before electricity that it was important for a farmer to be able to get up at a particular time.
Right.
And in certain times of the year, there's no light. There was no way to flip on a light to even look at a clock if you had one. And that type of situation over the years created a lot of the complications that we value today that are completely unnecessary, like a minute repeater.
Like a minute repeater in the dark, they could press a button and they would hear the chimes of the hours and the quarter hours and the minutes. Or a tourbillon where it could be in their pocket, and no matter what position or how the tourbillon watch was laying or pocket watch was laying, it would still keep the same time as if it was in one position. So yeah, all of those complications today, I guess you don't need. And that's also kind of the beauty too. I mean, it's something that they really, really needed back then, and you can kind of think back on how they needed it. Today, it's just a higher level of skill for a watchmaker to be able to make a tourbillon, a minute repeater, a perpetual calendar, whatever complication it is. It's like, this guy can do it.
Right.
There's only 2 guys in our factory that can make this watch.
Right.
And this is one of the guys. So you've got that level of skill. He's the guy.
Right.
So that's pretty special in its own right.
Sure, yeah, and I get excited about all of that stuff. I remember when they came out with a cage tourbillon and a wristwatch, you know, things that were completely unnecessary for today, but just almost a marvel of engineering, right? But and keep in mind, the watches that we wear on our wrist today, until about World War II, everybody pretty much carried pocket watches, and they had a whole lot more space in that case to fit all this stuff in there.
Right.
And as time has marched on, and we begin to wear wristwatches, they've had to make everything smaller and smaller and smaller, and fit it in a smaller and smaller case. And it's
which is also a massive skill.
Sure.
When you think about how much you can fit in a 54 millimeter kind of pocket watch compared to what you can fit in a tiny 35 millimeter watch. And if you're able to put those complications in there, it just takes more and more skill. So that's part of the beauty also. Years ago, there was like a race on who could make the smallest and thinnest movements. Now it doesn't really matter because people like a little bit of a larger watch.
Yeah.
But 15, 20 years ago, get brands like Piaget and Vacheron and AP, and they were all trying to make the smallest, thinnest movements with the most complications. And that was, a highly valued, you showed it, right. I can do all of these complications, and I can put it in this tiny little package.
Right.
It's no longer a 54 millimeter pocket watch. So yeah, the different brands kind of compete on that, and that's still going on. There's different competitions that the watchmakers are currently involved in on who can do these things.
Right.
And there's still awards happening, and it's a very valued profession in Switzerland. You can be an intern in Switzerland. That's a normal thing.
Right.
For it to be a watchmaker.
Right.
As an intern.
Yeah.
We can't even fathom that here.
Sure.
You're gonna be a fucking watchmaker? You're gonna be an intern? Like, you said that to your parents, you're going to school over here, they'd be like, what are you talking about?
You're gonna make what?
Yeah, a watchmaker?
Yeah.
It's not even a thing here, but over in Switzerland, you can do that when you're 15 years old, and it's normal.
Right.
It's a valued profession.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about your store. You've got quite a number of brands that you carry. Tell us a little bit about what you carry and what you have to offer.
So we've got about 20 major brands. We're in Vacheron Constantine. This is one of our brands, kind of a higher end brand. And we've got Mont Blanc, we've got Omega, Blanc Pond, IWC, Grand Seiko, Nomos, and then we carry Tag and a plethora of pre-owned pieces. So pre-owned can be anything from AP, Patek, Rolex, Cartier, just anything out there. We get tons and tons and tons of pre-owned. And we can pretty much find anything that someone's looking for too. So if someone's looking for a specific watch that's hard to get, we'll find that piece for them.
Right.
See if we can get them the best price we can get them.
Right.
And then get it off to our customers.
That's awesome. And so you don't just do business out of this location though, right? You do a lot of online business?
Yeah, the business Timeless started online. So that was everything. That was 100% of business, 10 years ago. And now it's kind of morphed into a brick and mortar store, but we still do 50% of our business is online.
Gotcha.
And mainly with pre-owned pieces.
Gotcha. And have you been positively, negatively affected by COVID? I mean, we're social distancing, we're sitting on opposite sides of a table. It is the middle of COVID, so.
It is the middle of COVID, yeah. We've actually done pretty well during COVID, just because we do ship a lot. We do a lot of online business, and how it played out, a lot of our competition were shut down, whether they were in California, New York, they were shut down, and we were fortunate enough to be able to work during that time.
Sure.
So we did okay during COVID. We were able to stay afloat, keep all our guys, and sell a lot of watches.
That's great. And so if you're out there in Bourbon Real Talk land, wherever you happen to be, even if you don't live close to the Shops of Legacy and you can't come in this beautiful store, you can still go to their website and check things out. And I'm sure that if you called up here, the team would be willing to hop on board, help you find whatever it is that you're looking for. Yep. And we've got an announcement that if you are a watch lover and you are going to be in the market for a watch at any time in the near future, you're going to want to listen through the end of this podcast because we've got some good news. So part of the reason why we're here is because of the Brown Spirit whiskey, and you're a whiskey drinker, right? What are your kind of normal drinkers? What do you normally drink?
Typically drink scotch.
Okay, normally scotch. That's okay. Watches
Yeah.
are fancy. Scotch is fancy.
Right.
That makes sense.
Macallan's kind of a staple here.
Yeah.
Oban, Dalwhinnie, like we drink a lot of scotch here. So that's typically where we go to. Now we met with Balcones guys. A couple of them are customers. So we kind of just had a natural relationship with them, and they got me into their different offerings. And they said, we got something really special we're coming out with. There's this special rye. And one thing led to another, and they're like, we've got 6 barrels coming out. And I'm like, well, I need a barrel. We're gonna need a barrel for the store because we drink old fashions in the store.
Yeah.
And rye is obviously perfect for old fashioned. So we ended up doing a deal with them and doing a big tasting and picking out the rye that we wanted from the barrels. And now that we've got it, we took half of the bottles, half of them went to a liquor store to be purchased, and we make our timeless old fashions, which we're drinking now.
Gotcha. So I don't know if you picked up on that, but this watch store did a single barrel selection of a cash strength Balcones rye whiskey, and they all have it here in the store for their customers to drink while they walk around and check things out.
Yeah.
And so, Some Would Say Whiskey, the club that I admin, and Bourbon Real Talk, both organizations have a great relationship with everyone down at Balcones. And Alex over there gave me a call and was like, hey, we got this weird thing, like there's this watch store and he bought a barrel, but he doesn't have a retail partner. And we're like, oh, we got a retail partner, no problem. We'll get him set up and, make sure that he gets a good price and all of those things. And then you came up with this idea, the challenge coin.
Right.
So first off, tell the people what a challenge coin is if they don't know, and then talk a little bit about, how the challenge coin integrates into this whiskey bottle.
So I actually don't know the origins of the challenge coin.
I'll give you what I know. In the military, it used to be a thing that military officers would carry around these challenge coins, and when a service member did something that was really exceptional, they would give them a challenge coin, and then if they saw that military officer at the bar, they could present the challenge coin, and the officer would have to buy drinks for everybody, basically, right? So it became like a point of honor to be able to earn a challenge coin from somebody who had the authority to be able to give it. That concept expanded. Now it's all throughout the military, FBI, CIA. There's all these different organizations that issue challenge coins, and there's people that collect challenge coins. I didn't know anything about this until Will, if you're watching, recently explained it all to me. And so it's a pretty hefty coin. Colby, could you grab the bottle and bring that over here? It's a pretty hefty coin, and it's usually got some information on it and all that. It's really nice, custom made.
Right.
And so you had a challenge coin made for Timeless.
I did. So from the barrel, we had 210 bottles. And this is our bottle here. We've got a little sticker on this side, and then we got the challenge coin here. So this is pretty cool because this is the first time they made a challenge coin. And on one side, you've got Timeless Luxury Watches, our logo, and the other side is the Balcones Rye. And on each one, they're actually numbered. So, for example, out of 210 bottles, this is number 50. So with every bottle, you get a challenge coin. So we thought it'd be fun if we invited whoever bought the bottles to be part of our kind of friends and family at Timeless. And if you come in and you buy a bottle at the store, and you come in with a challenge coin, we'll punch that number in the computer and you'll get a friends and family deal on whatever you pick out. So you'll be part of the Timeless family at this point. This is the challenge coin.
That is awesome. Yeah, so when you own a luxury watch store, it can be very difficult to work your way into becoming an authorized dealer for some of these super high-end brands, and they're really sensitive about what type of marketing you do. And they want to make sure that you're not doing any marketing that could damage the prestigious image of that brand. And so we're not able to say any specific percentages of discounts or any dollar figures or anything like that. But as the store owner, you do have the ability to
As the store owner, we can offer friends and family.
friends and family.
So just know that we'll take care of you.
It's going to be significant. Off camera, we've talked about several different opportunities. They were enough to pique my interest, okay? And so there's going to be a pretty big opportunity. Plus, it's kind of fun. In addition to that, Someone Say Whiskey tapped none other than Colby Howard, our resident spirits, mixing expert, and he made a custom cocktail for you guys.
Yeah.
And so it's just
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
He's right over there.
He's right over there off camera.
Yeah.
He is wearing his mask, just so you know.
That's right.
Because he's no longer drinking. But so there's an opportunity here. So if you are a Bourbon Real Talk listener or watcher, and you don't live local, and you're not going to be able to make it over to the store because these bottles are going to, the remaining bottles are going to be sold at S&K in Plano. So if you're not able to make it over there and you want to get involved with this, just call up here. Whoever answers the phone, let them know that you're calling because of Bourbon Real Talk, or you're calling because of Someone Say Whiskey, and that you want to get involved but you're not able to buy a bottle.
Yeah, if you call up and buy a watch, we'll just send you one of the bottles with the watch. I think we can do that legally.
We'll talk about that off camera.
Okay.
There's a way that we can get it figured out.
See what we can do.
Yeah, and then if you're local, we're going to make some announcements in the club, and we're going to let you know when these bottles are going to drop. And so if you're a watch enthusiast at all, and you're wanting to get involved with this opportunity to get a friends and family discount on a luxury timepiece, you're going to want to get over there and grab one of those bottles. And I'm a little bit worried because the whiskey itself is just really interesting. So it's the rye from Balcony. So they toast the grain before they put it through the milling process, and it really gives it a really rich, dark cocoa nib, dark chocolate, and coffee flavor. When you water it down, it almost tastes like a coffee liqueur. But at full strength, it's really robust. It's got a good bit of cinnamon in there. Doesn't taste like a traditional rye, that's why it tastes so awesome in these cocktails. And so Dan has been gracious enough to invite all of the Someone Say Whiskey and Bourbon Real Talk listeners down. If you want to look at watches, come down to his store at Timeless Luxury Watches in Shops at Legacy West, and you will be invited in for a free cocktail hand-designed by Colby Howard. The staff have been trained how to duplicate it perfectly. All of the stuff is here. We even have crystal clear glass from Howard & Sons Ice Co. And you're going to be able to get a cocktail that if you went next door was going to cost you probably $14, $15. You're going to be able to get it for free while you look around and check out their beautiful inventory. So
yeah, come on down. I mean, we're going to have fun. There's no pressure in the store at all. I mean, we just like to talk watches, so just come on in, have a drink, we'll hang out, we'll talk. If that leads to something, that's great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. We're just hanging out. So a lot of our customers will just come in and hang out anyway.
Right.
So we're happy just to hang out and have a drink with you.
When you're serving old fashions and pouring
Well,
scotch,
shit.
why not? If you're down here,
I mean,
drop
what could
in and
be
say
better?
hi to your friends, right?
That's right.
I like that. So if people do want to find your website,
Yeah,
tell them what it is, your social media, all that stuff.
So it's Timeless Luxury Watches. So timelessluxwatches.com is the website. Timeless Luxury Watches is our Instagram and Facebook. So you can find us there. And I don't know, you're probably going to have a link on this, right?
Sure, I can throw up a link, but tell them your phone number, whatever.
Yeah, phone number is 214-494-4241 if you want to call the store.
Yeah, and I'll throw a link up. And I'm just pretty excited about this opportunity. It's one of those things that when it first got presented to me, I was just like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people who love whiskey love watches. So
Yeah.
why not bring the opportunity to those that are interested in it, and let's just see what happens.
It's so
right?
bizarre that why not?
It's just crazy
why
enough
not?
it might work. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly.
I've really enjoyed meeting you, enjoyed looking around the store, enjoyed the cocktail. And I'm just excited to see what this opportunity brings. And we've talked about doing kind of an event here that's like a special invite event only for those that have expressed some special interest in buying a nice luxury timepiece. So there may be some more opportunities in the future. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, be on the lookout and someone say whiskey for the information to drop about when this bottle is going to be available. I suspect that it's going to be in the next few weeks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the next few weeks. So with all that being said, if you want more information about Bourbon Real Talk, you can check us out at bourbonrealtalk.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube /Bourbon Real Talk. And I would love to hear your show suggestions. You can throw them down in the comments. If you have any questions about watches, throw them in. If I don't know, I'll reach out to Dan. It's going to be great. And as always, if you woke up this morning and you were unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that I love you. And I'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. This content is being brought to you by the Bourbon Real Talk American Whiskey Aroma Kit. This is a tool that I put together to help all you whiskey aficionados out there develop your palates. You can sit down with the vials and train your senses, or you can sit down with a great dram and break that whiskey down to its components. If you have any interest of purchasing a kit of your own, head on over to bourbonrealtalk.com /shop and pick one up. Thank you for listening.